Well, I don't know about you, but I really like fairy tales, and I liked our story about Snow White and Rose Red. And I wanted to talk to you today about some more of the vocabulary from Rose Red or Snow White and Rose Red. And I also wanted to complete a story map with you. There will also be a quiz on Schoology over the vocabulary from the story and also some of the things that make how this is a fairy tale and what are the elements of a fairy tale. So before we do that, I want to, and maybe you remember this, complete a story map about the story. Now, the story has characters in it, and of course, Snow White, Rose Red are characters in the story. Who else is a character in the story? And characters don't have to be people. They can sometimes be animals, or they can even be objects that have special qualities, that like they can talk and move around. In this story, one of the characters is an animal. It's a bear, right? The bear's in the story. I think it also mentioned the mom, but she's really not a character that moves the story along as much as Snow White, Rose Red, and the bear. Where does the story take place? Well, it starts out at their house, right? At a house. And it also takes place in the forest. What is the problem? What is the problem in the story? Do you remember what happened to the bear? Right, he had his gold stolen, right? His gold was stolen by the dwarf. So the bear had his gold stolen by I'm trying to remember that they referred to him as a dwarf, right? I'm going to make sure I got that right. The bear had his gold stolen by the dwarf. Now, we know that sometimes in fairy tales there can be magical characters like fairies and dwarves and unicorns. They're just all dragons, all kinds of magical creatures show up in fairy tales. So the problem is that his gold was stolen. But do you remember how they solved that problem? How that problem got solved? Right. The bear scared the dwarf away, and he was so scared that he told the bear that he would give him his gold in exchange for letting him go and letting him live, because he was so scared of this great big bear that was coming at him. So the dwarf gave the gold back to the bear in exchange. In exchange means that's what he would give him for his freedom, right? In exchange for his life. He said, "Oh, if you spare me, I will give you my gold." And so that's how the bear got his gold back. And remember, after he got his gold back, he turned back into a prince, right? Yes, after he got his gold back, he said, "That dwarf changed me into a bear and then stole my treasure. I've had to live in the forest as a bear until I could get my treasure back." So once the dwarf gave the gold back to the bear in exchange for his life, he got to turn back into a prince. Now, before I let you go, oops, not the right page. Before I let you go, I wanted to talk to you about a few more of the words that are in this story that may not be familiar to you. And let's get, I think it's page, we did piece. There it is, withered. It said, the dwarf with an old withered face. Now, wither means to dry up and shrink and wrinkle. So if his face is withered, it must be all wrinkled up in the story. let's see, the next one, oh, is right underneath it. It's the word fellow. Now, fellow just refers to a man or a boy. All right, so it refers to a male. And this one that says the little fellow jumped about, not knowing what to do. The little fellow means he is a male dwarf. He's a boy or a man dwarf. All right, and the last word that I wanted to talk to you about, looking for those yellow words, aha. It's this word, accusingly. Accusingly means in the manner of saying that someone has done something wrong. All right. So, why are you staring? Shouted the dwarf accusingly. So he's saying they're staring at him, and that's not the right thing to do. You might say to your mom that your brother took your toy accusingly. He did some, you're saying that he did something wrong, accusingly. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go because you need to reread this story. It's in the McGraw-Hill app. And then you need to take a look at your quiz that's also on Schoology.